Everyone knows that Meghan's ex-husband is the filmmaker Trevor Engelson, and although they're childless, many people doubt Meghan has long been a mother. Following her attendance at Northwestern University, Meghan began dating Joe Giuliano, and the couple got married after having a child when Meghan was almost 20. Noelle Rasmussen, the daughter of Samantha, Meghan's sister, has come under suspicion. According to reports, Noelle was born in or around 1999, which fits the timeline perfectly. Given her appearance, Noelle does share some similarities with Joe and Meghan, and she's even more like Meghan.
Welcome back to Clout Therapy, the place where we dig into the messiest Hollywood scandals and internet rumors. Today, we're tackling one of the wildest Meghan Markle stories yet. Forget the royal drama. Forget the family feuds. This rumor is way darker. We're talking whispers of a secret teenage marriage, a sealed annulment, and even a daughter she allegedly abandoned decades ago. Yeah, you heard that right. A hidden child. From old gossip blogs to resurfaced documents, the internet is piecing together a story that could shatter Meghan's carefully polished image. And if there's any truth to it, everything she's built, the brand, the empire, the power couple status, could come crashing down in seconds. So buckle up, because we're about to break down the receipts, the rumors, and why this alleged secret might be Meghan's most dangerous one yet. This is Clout Therapy, so let's lay it out. Meghan's official story is polished, simple, and almost too perfect. She graduated from Immaculate Heart High School in Los Angeles in 1994. Then, she says she took a wholesome little gap year before heading to Northwestern University. A year of travel, self-discovery, just living life like a normal teenager before chasing her dreams. And on paper, that sounds great. A clean, inspiring timeline. But the problem is, nobody can actually pin down what happened during that so-called year. Friends from school don't talk about it. Teachers don't mention it. Even family members are vague. It's like an entire chunk of her life just went missing. Now, here's where the rumors explode. According to old gossip blogs, sketchy forum posts, and whispers that have resurfaced again and again, Meghan didn't spend that year traveling or soul-searching. She was allegedly in Vegas, and not just partying. The story goes that she married her teenage boyfriend at the time, a guy named Joe Giuliano. The marriage was supposedly short-lived, annulled quickly, and sealed away. But some people claim it didn't end there. They say Meghan gave birth to a baby girl in 1995, a child who was quietly removed from the picture and never spoken of again. Think about that for a second. A secret wedding, a secret annulment, and a daughter that supposedly vanished from her narrative. If true, it completely rewrites Meghan's carefully crafted biography. And here's the thing, the gap year lines up perfectly with this rumor. There's just nothing there. No photos, no stories, no details. It's like a year she worked hard to erase. And in Hollywood, when you erase something that aggressively, people always ask why. So on one side, we have the official version, wholesome student, fresh start, Northwestern dreams. On the other, we've got the rumor, a teenage marriage in Vegas, a baby in 1995, and a sealed annulment that nobody wants to talk about. And the longer you look at that missing year, the harder it is to ignore the cracks. Because when timelines don't add up, that's usually where the real story begins. All right, let's dive into the teenage love story that people swear Meghan doesn't want the world to know. Meghan and Joe Giuliano, two high school sweethearts, young, passionate, and inseparable. By most accounts, they met during those high school years, and like a lot of teenage romances, it was all-consuming. The story goes that they couldn't wait. They didn't want to play by the rules, so they ran off to Vegas. Not for a weekend fling, but for something way bigger, a courthouse wedding. Picture it, two teenagers in love standing in front of a judge making vows they weren't ready to keep. And the wildest part, allegedly, only two family members were there to witness the whole thing. No big ceremony, no flowers, just a rushed marriage stamped into the record books. But here's the catch. The marriage didn't last. Within months, maybe even weeks, it was already crumbling. Reality hit. They were too young, too different, and the whole thing fell apart almost as fast as it began. Joe Giuliano supposedly filed for an annulment, wiping the slate clean. Now, annulments aren't unusual in Vegas. It's basically the capital of quickie weddings and quickie endings. But here's where the suspicion creeps in. According to people who've dug into this, the court sealed the record, totally closed off. And that almost never happens in a case this small, this unimportant. Why lock it away so tightly unless there was something in those papers that couldn't be seen by the public? Think about it. A teenage love story, a marriage that lasted only a blink, and then sealed files that nobody can open. On its own, maybe it's just a messy chapter, but tied to the bigger rumor of a baby in 1995, suddenly that sealed record looks less like teenage embarrassment and more like a cover-up. And in the world of scandal, a sealed record is basically a neon sign screaming, "There's more here than they want you to see." And now, the part of the rumor that really makes people's jaws drop, the alleged baby. According to whispers that just won't die, in 1995, right after that whirlwind Vegas marriage to Joe Giuliano collapsed, Meghan gave birth to a daughter. Not a rumor about a scare, not just gossip about a pregnancy, but an actual child. The story goes that this baby girl didn't go into a formal adoption, no courts, no legal trail. Instead, she was allegedly raised quietly within the Giuliano family, almost like the child was absorbed into Joe's world, while Meghan wiped her hands clean and moved on. And here's where it starts to feel eerie. If you've followed Meghan's life, you know she has a habit, a very distinct pattern, of cutting people out whenever they don't fit the narrative. Old childhood friends? Gone. Family members she grew up with? Gone. Her own father, who walked her down the aisle at her first wedding? Cut off. Every time someone becomes inconvenient or threatens the image, she severs ties like they never existed. So when people hear about this alleged baby, they say, "Doesn't that sound exactly like her?" Erase the connection, seal the record, and move forward like nothing ever happened. Now pause for a second and think about the timeline. If this story is true, that baby girl would be about 30 years old today. 30. She wouldn't be a rumor, she wouldn't be a secret on paper. She'd be a living, breathing adult out there in the world. Old enough to build a career, old enough to get married, old enough to have children of her own, old enough to come forward at any moment and say, "I'm Meghan Markle's hidden daughter." Imagine the chaos that would unleash. Every headline, every brand deal, every carefully scripted public appearance Meghan has built her empire on, gone overnight. Because you can hide a marriage, you can spin a feud, but you cannot erase a grown child if they step into the spotlight. And that's the scariest part of this whole rumor. The silence, the missing year, the sealed court record, the Giuliano family never speaking on it. It all hangs there like smoke from a fire that everyone insists doesn't exist. Maybe it's just gossip, maybe it's completely false. But the idea that Meghan's biggest scandal isn't the royal feud or the lawsuits or the endless PR battles, but a secret daughter she allegedly abandoned 30 years ago? That's the kind of rumor that keeps people hooked, because if even one piece of it is real, the truth could destroy everything she's worked to build. By the time Meghan finally shows up at Northwestern, it almost feels like she dropped straight out of the sky. One minute, she's a high school grad with a so-called gap year ahead of her. The next, she's suddenly enrolled at a top university with no trace of where she'd been in between. There are no photos of her travels, no stories from friends, no receipts or travel logs proving she was off experiencing the world. Nothing. It's just empty space. And in that empty space, her reinvention begins. This is where Meghan sheds the skin of her teenage self and emerges with a whole new narrative. By the time she's walking around campus, Joe Giuliano doesn't exist. The whispers of a courthouse wedding vanish, and any mention of a baby? Gone. It's a fresh slate, almost too perfect, almost like she scrubbed her own timeline clean. People have compared it to witness protection. One version of Meghan disappears completely, and a new, carefully edited version steps into the spotlight, ready to play the role of a lifetime. And then there's the part that just doesn't add up: the sealed records. Normally, Vegas is an open book. Quick marriages, quick divorces, quick annulments, all public. Anyone can walk into a courthouse and pull those files. But Meghan's alleged annulment? Locked away, untouchable. Which immediately raises the question, why hers? What was in those documents that needed to be hidden so badly? The theories are wild, but they all come back to the same point. There had to be something serious. Some people believe it was to cover up an underage marriage scandal, something that could have blown up later if the tabloids ever caught wind. Others are convinced it was to erase any mention of a pregnancy or even a child, tying back to those persistent rumors about a baby girl in 1995. And then there's the image angle, that Meghan, even as a teenager, understood the power of a clean story. Seal the file, bury the evidence, walk into Northwestern as if none of it had ever happened. But here's the twist. Sealing those records might have had the exact opposite effect. Instead of silencing the whispers, it amplified them. People see a locked file, and their minds immediately go to the worst-case scenario. Because Vegas doesn't seal annulments for nothing. Something had to be there, something worth protecting. And if Meghan went that far to hide her past before she was even famous, then the question now practically asks itself. If she was hiding something back then, what else could she be hiding today? One thing about Meghan that even her biggest fans can't deny, she has a history of cutting people out. Look at her father, Thomas Markle, the man who raised her, paid for her schooling, walked her down the aisle at her first wedding, completely erased once he became inconvenient. Her half-siblings? Estranged, dismissed, treated like strangers. Even old friends who used to speak warmly about her suddenly vanish from her story. And let's not forget her ex-husband, Trevor Engelson, a guy who was by her side before she ever tasted fame, scrubbed clean from her narrative like he never existed. It's a pattern. When someone no longer serves her image, she cuts the tie, rewrites the script, and moves forward without looking back. And that's why the rumor about an alleged child fits so neatly into the puzzle. If she could erase friends, family, and even entire marriages, why wouldn't she erase the one connection that could destroy everything? A daughter in 1995 would be the ultimate inconvenient truth. Too big to spin, too messy to manage. The cleanest option? Do what she's always done. Erase, block, and move on like it never happened. And when you look at Meghan's life through that lens, suddenly the rumor doesn't feel so far-fetched. It feels like the ultimate example of a pattern she's been following all along. Over the years, the whispers never really stopped. Even after Meghan reinvented herself, even after she married Harry, even after she turned her life into a brand, people kept talking. Friends of the Giuliano family, or at least people claiming to be close, have let little details slip. A drunken comment here, a forum post there, an offhand, "You didn't hear it from me." And strangely, they all circle back to the same story. A teenage Vegas wedding, a sealed annulment, and a hidden baby girl. The details almost never change. Different voices, different times, but the same plotline. And in the world of rumors, that's what makes this so chilling. It's not just one bitter ex, not just one random gossip blog. It's too many identical whispers floating around to just dismiss as coincidence. It's like the story keeps resurfacing, refusing to die, no matter how much Meghan tries to bury it. So why does this matter now? Because Meghan has spent the last decade building her empire on one core promise: authenticity. She's the woman who tells her truth, the one who says she's been silenced, manipulated, pushed out. But if this rumor holds even a drop of truth, then her biggest silence isn't something the royals forced on her. It's one she created herself. The irony is brutal. The woman who sells empowerment and honesty could be hiding the darkest secret of all. And that doesn't just dent her credibility, it explodes it. It undermines every speech, every interview, every tearful confession. And the fallout wouldn't stop at Meghan. The royals, already balancing on thin ice with their public reputation, would be dragged into it too. Because once Meghan married Harry, her past became part of their brand. One explosive headline, "Meghan's hidden daughter," could take down both sides of the royal divide in one blow. And here's the ticking clock nobody can ignore: the 30-year-old factor. If this baby girl was real, she isn't a child anymore. She's not hidden, not helpless, not voiceless. She's a grown woman, 30 years old enough to have her own life, her own family, her own social media, old enough to decide one morning that she's tired of being invisible. She could step into a newsroom with documents or sell her story to a tabloid. She could take a DNA test and let the results speak louder than Meghan ever could. Imagine the chaos of Meghan's carefully crafted brand colliding with a woman who claims to be her daughter. That wouldn't be a scandal. That would be an earthquake. And the scariest part? Meghan wouldn't be able to control it. For the first time, the narrative would belong to someone else, and it would be someone who shares her blood. So let's pull this all together. A missing year that nobody can account for. A teenage Vegas wedding that allegedly ended almost as quickly as it began. A sealed annulment that Vegas courts won't let anyone touch. A trail of whispers about a baby girl who vanished into the Giuliano family. And now, 3 decades later, the terrifying possibility that she could reappear at any moment. Because here's the truth about secrets: they never stay buried forever. Not in Hollywood, not in royalty, not in real life. Meghan has outrun critics. She's outrun the press. She's even outrun the monarchy itself. But there's one thing you can't outrun: blood. And if you thought this rumor was wild, just wait until you hear what Prince Harry doesn't know. That's coming up in the next video. Stay tuned, because in Hollywood and royalty alike, the drama never sleeps. This is Clout Therapy.